Welcome to SibSpot. Today's Reddit posts are taken from the subreddit called AskReddit. Leafy asks, what is a fact or statistic that seems fake but is real? This one got lots of good replies. Some of them are really short, but I wanted to share. Fact 1 is by I Might Be Weasel. In English, the color orange was named after the fruit. Before that, orange was just considered a shade of red. That's why gingers are called redheads. Capital indication shares. Sharks have existed longer than trees. Romeo 9594 replied to this and says that sharks are older than the rings of Saturn. Raver of the Border says we live closer in time to Tyrannosaurus rex than the T-Rex did to the Stegosaurus. Someone replied to that to say, I always bring this up when riding the train at Disneyland and see the T-Rex and Stegosaurus fighting. Mr. Bellyboy replied to that and said, of course they'd be fighting. They don't belong together. And then there's an interesting fact posted by Quabala. I saw a scale model of the Earth, Moon, and Sun in a museum. The Sun was about the size of a basketball, and the Earth was on the opposite side of the room, the size of a small marble. I'd guess 30 meters away. The Moon was the size of a tiny pinhead, about 10 centimeters away from the Earth. On this scale, the nearest star to Earth, Proxima Centauri, wouldn't be in the same building or even in the same city. It would be about 10,000 kilometers away. 10,000 kilometers is just under the diameter of the Earth, by the way. So it would have been about an Earth away. And that's just one star, the nearest one to us, in a galaxy containing billions of stars, which is just one of billions of galaxies. The scale of the universe really is mind-bogglingly big, far bigger than we can begin to comprehend. Devil Renegade writes back to this. Our planet, when compared to our sun, is ludicrously small. You could fit about 1.3 million Earths inside the sun. Our sun is a yellow dwarf type star. In stellar terms, that's pretty minor. Aldebaran is a red giant type star. You could fit about 86,000 of our suns inside Aldebaran. That's approximately 111.8 billion Earths. Betelgeuse is a red supergiant star. You could fit around 1 million suns inside Betelgeuse. That's 1.3 trillion Earths. We're not done yet. VY Canis Majoris is a red hypergiant star. 3.2 billion suns can fit inside Canis Majoris. That means you could fit 416 quadrillion Earths inside there. I could go on. VY Canis Majoris is far from the largest known star in our galaxy, and there's likely to be far larger stars out there that we've not yet discovered. The scale of the universe and how tiny and insignificant we are in it is staggering. On to a bit of a more light-hearted question that somebody asked. What's a funny story that's been told throughout your family for years, maybe decades? Cynical Vulpine says, my uncle used to tell the story of the time my grandfather was bitten by a Sydney funnel web, a highly venomous spider, before the anti-venom was in use. My grandfather's coworker bandaged the hand, and the three of them bundled into a car to get him to the hospital in Sydney. They were in Lithgow. Partway through the journey, they get pulled over by a cop for speeding. The cop waltzes up to the passenger door, thinking he just caught some guys hooning off after work. The cop taps the window and asks if they knew the speed they were doing. The passenger in the front responds by holding up a jar with the spider inside and points to my grandfather's bandaged hand. The cop's eyes go wide as dinner plates, and he follows up with, right, follow me. The cop sprints back to the car, slams on his lights and sirens, and escorts them into Sydney in about half the time it would normally take. They all thought it was hilarious that the fastest the driver had ever driven was chasing a police car. For the record, it's a pretty scary looking spider. I'm not going to put a picture of it here because I know some people have phobias of spiders. And this guy did not die because he got bit with what's called a dry bite, which has no venom entering the body. So he's really lucky he survived, though, because they're very, very deadly. And then there's this one that taught me something, but also made me laugh. By Sluk Benwala. Back when towns had shared phone lines, you could just pick up your receiver and listen in on all the phone calls in town. In my grandma's rural hometown, there was a nosy old woman named Murdy that was notorious for monitoring the goings-on of the town through listening to all the phone calls. One time when my grandma's mom knew she was listening, she, my great-grandmother, stood on the chair, put her to the mic, and ripped a fart, then said, "Smell that, Murdy?" It's been told throughout the years to the point that when we were kids, when we'd fart, we'd yell, "Smell that, Murdy?" Old ladies often, they just have nothing going on in life, and this is it's free drama, basically. Illogical Futurity shares a story as well. My grandpa on my dad's side was a bus driver. There was a woman who was racist, and her son was some politician, so she used to use that to force Gramps not to pick up colored folks and not to go through predominantly colored neighborhoods. So what was supposed to be a 15-minute ride to her destination turned into an hour-and-a-half drive because he'd turn around taking long routes. They were 10 feet away from the destination once when Gramps backed up and took a corner, saying there was a black guy in front of the place. The woman learned her lesson. My great-grandfather didn't want to go to the dentist because it was too expensive. So after having a tooth issue for a while, he started drinking heavily to dull the pain. A friend of his told him to go down to Mexico and they'd pull it. Super cheap, no questions asked. So he drove down to Mexico, got plastered, went in and said, "F it, pull 'em all, I don't care." And no questions asked, they did just that, with him passed out drunk. My family tells the story about how he could still eat a steak, though, and my grandmother said they'd always joke with him and say, "Dad, gum it," when he would eat. Pink Pick said, "A friend of mine once was having garlic olives. At one point he mentioned the white ones were the delicious ones. What he meant was the cloves of garlic. Ever since then, when we have mixed olives, there's always a family member pointing out that the white ones are the best ones and really delicious." Storyteller 678 has a couple stories. I come from a line of smart alecks and pranksters. The first instance of this that I'm aware of was from my grandpa on my dad's side. Years before I came along, my newly wedded parents were visiting Grandma and Grandpa. Dad at the time was driving a car with bench seats, and the passenger side door wasn't working properly. So as my parents were leaving, Mom opened the driver's side door to get in and slide across the seat. She was greeted by a snake and screamed for my dad. Grandpa was looking out the kitchen window, laughing so hard his face was red. It turned out that he put it in the car to get my dad, and got her instead. Then I pranked my wife on April Fool's Day of this year. I got up early while my wife was asleep to run some quick errands, and bought a bag of Tootsie Rolls from the store. When I got home, I formed and shaped a few of them to look like dog poo. I even ran them under some warm water so they would have the right look to them. Then I took my carefully crafted fake poops and left them on the bathroom floor and closed the door. Then waited for my wife to wake up. I didn't have to wait long before she woke up. Seconds later, I hear an, "Ugh." "What's wrong?" I called out. "The dog pooped in here," she yelled, sounding disgusted. "No problem, I'll get it," I yelled back and walked into the bathroom. The look of disgust on her face when I picked it up with my bare hands was only topped by the look when I popped it into my mouth and started chewing it. Even if it wasn't poo. This was on a bathroom floor. That is disgusting and way past the 5-second rule. Even if you, Lysoled the floor before you put this down. That is disgusting. Nasty. That's it for posts for today. Until we meet again, have a first-rate day.